Hey guys, how's it going? It's Calvin Rabb, and a special welcome to all my psychology majors, or maybe soon-to-be psychology majors. So in this video, I'm going to go over 10 of the highest paying jobs that psychology students can get. So what I did is I did research and I looked at the jobs that psychology students can get and their salary, and then I sorted them to get the 10 highest paying salaried positions. And this is how the video is going to work. So I'm going to go over the job and the salary for it, and a little bit of an explanation of what you would do during that job, but I'm also going to explain if you need further education. So one thing that I realized in my research here is for most psychology-related professional positions, you need more than a bachelor's degree. So for instance, a lot of psychology students go and become psychologists, and you cannot become a psychologist just from a bachelor's degree in psychology. You need either a doctorate degree or a master's degree of some sort if you want to be actually a practicing psychologist in the professional realm of things. So I will mention whether or not you do need, a doctorate degree or a master's degree, or if you can do it on a bachelor's degree. And then I'll go through the 10. I am going to go from lowest paying to highest paying, with number 1 being the highest paying. But I don't want you to skip all the way to that last one, because all these jobs, what's interesting is they're pretty unique in that they're all in different fields and different things like that. A few are similar, but for the most part, a lot of them are pretty different. So you maybe find something in there that you're interested in, that piques your interest. And that's really my hope in this video, is that I can hopefully touch on a job that you're like, hey, that's something that I might want to look kind of a little bit more into. So that's my hope here. So I don't recommend skipping all the way to the last one there. And if you do want to kind of go through this video in a little bit of an order, I will have video description below going through each job and then the timestamp that you can find it at. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Let's get into the 10 highest paying jobs for psychology students. This is going to be fun. Let's do it. Coming in at number 10 is a marketing manager, and this on average is going to be making over $65,000 per year. And for this one, you do just need a bachelor's degree. So what is a marketing manager going to do? Well, you are in charge of marketing, and you will be in charge of creating different marketing campaigns, finding that target audience, and this is really using a lot of the skills you learn as a psychology student. You are going to be learning how to do proper research, how to take data and interpret it. And another thing that you learn about psychology is you learn how people think. You can create campaigns that people will react to. This can be anything from the messaging in the campaign to the colors involved, and psychology students know quite a bit about human behavior and can create a marketing campaign tailored to that. So you can see how in marketing, psychology students are in demand. So number 10 is a marketing manager. Coming in at number 9 is working for the suicide hotline, and you're going to be making on average about $86,000. And I went on the suicide hotline's website to see what education requirements they said they needed, and they said that they needed a doctorate degree. I was a little confused because I was actually reading a book by someone who talked about working for the suicide hotline, and they didn't have, to my knowledge, a doctorate degree. They just went straight into the training, so I'm not too sure there, but I'm going to go off of their website, and they did claim that you would need a doctorate degree for it. But as far as what you would do working for the suicide hotline, I think kind of in the name, if you know what the suicide hotline is, you are working, maybe you are in charge of the phones, or they also have a chat side of things, but you will be working for the suicide hotline. And from this, you can understand that this is an unbelievably important position. It will take quite a bit of training, and I have the utmost respect for people that are in this position. And it's oftentimes, I imagine, incredibly sad, incredibly stressful, but all the more it is incredibly important, and that is part of the reason that it is so high paying. So if this interests you at all, I'm sure this is something that you can look into and see how you can start to work for the suicide hotline. Coming in at number 8 is getting involved with correctional psychology. So within correctional psychology, there are different jobs that are within it, but I'm just taking the field as a whole and we're going to talk about that. So the average salary here is going to be over $86,000. And what you are going to be doing working within correctional psychology is you are going to be working with generally incarcerated people. You may be doing evaluations and working within kind of the psychology element, assessing different offenders and maybe writing up reports and different things like that. You'll likely be closely tied with the legal system and different things like that. So you can see how this is a very important position, and if this is something that you're interested in at all, then I'd recommend looking into it, and it does make quite a bit of money as well. And then for correctional psychology, in my research, what I found is that you have to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree, although the vast majority of them do have a master's degree of some sort to get involved. Coming in at number 7 is a psychology faculty member, and this is someone who is part of faculty, meaning they are likely going to be a professor or a professor and a researcher or something along those lines. And for this, if you are going to be a professor, you will have to have a doctorate degree. And if you are interested in psychology but also teaching in general, then this may be something that you want to look into. You may want to teach at a university, maybe a community college, or something along those lines. Maybe you want to do research and teach, and just see what your options are there. But they do make quite a bit of money, and if you are interested in anything like this, then this may be something that you want to look into. Here, if you are actually interested in this, what I recommend doing is reaching out to some of the psychology faculty members wherever you go to school or are planning on going to school, and just letting them know you're interested in. If you have a passion for it, they probably do too, because that is their job. So reach out to them and maybe they can talk to you a little bit about how their journey went getting this position. Coming in at number 6 is the field of experimental psychology, and this is pretty high paying with an average salary of about $92,000. And whenever I think of psychology, this is what I usually think of. This is the side of psychology that I think is kind of ingrained in people's minds. And this is the experimental side of things. You are going to be running experiments on different things such as, human behavior and different things like that, and coming up with different research projects, and you are going to be drawing conclusions from your research. So for me, if I'm reading about someone's research that went on or some finding that's out there in the psychology world, that is oftentimes a psychology or an experimental psychologist behind that. So if you are very much so into psychology, into especially researching human behavior and different things like that, then this may be something that you want to look into. And I think this is the side of psychology that a lot of psychology students fall in love with, and I find it fascinating. I took one of the most interesting classes I've ever taken was just a general psychology course, and we learn a lot about human behavior, and it was an unbelievable course. So if this is interesting to you, you can look for more into it, and it is a high-paying position as well. And then from what I saw, if you do want to become an experimental psychologist, you did need at least a minimum of a master's degree from what I found. Although if there may be other instances where you can do some research just being with a bachelor's student. Maybe you can get involved in different research projects, but for the most part, I did see that you do need a master's degree to become an experimental psychologist. Coming in at number 5 is a research psychologist with an average salary of about $95,000. And you will need to more than just a bachelor's degree to get into research psychology in general. And what this is you are now researching human behavior, and you are reading different research projects that are out there. You may be coming to different conclusions, and it's all about learning where we are in the world of psychology, doing research, seeing if you can answer some of the world's dire questions that are out there surrounding psychology. So here you would be acting very much so as a researcher, as a scientist, and you will be going out and trying to find new solutions to the questions that are out there. This is very close to that experimental psychology side of things. Oftentimes experimental psychology is running those research programs and projects, and you may be doing some of that as well, but you will also be analyzing a bunch of those different research projects and trying to come up with new conclusions and just furthering your research. So this is oftentimes what faculty members, at least here at UCLA, will be doing, is research psychology, and it's a mix. It's not like these are all separated. It's not like You're a research psychologist, therefore you can't be an experimental psychologist. Oftentimes, you can think of this more as a Venn diagram. There's a lot of blending between them, and they'll be doing a lot of similar things. But on average, a research psychologist will be paid quite well, that $95,000 mark, and if this is something that you're interested in, then you may want to look just more into it and maybe get in contact again with someone on campus who is involved with research psychology. Coming in at number 4 is engineering psychology, and this will be on average making over $98,000 every single year. And there are some people that are in this industry, at least in my research, that do have a bachelor's degree, although it is more common to have a master's degree. Now, as far as what engineering psychology is it's blending two different things. So it is blending the psychology world of things along with engineering. And what this kind of turns into is you are building machines for oftentimes disabled people or people with psychological issues. So you'll be building different machines along with psychologists and together making it just oftentimes, really this is mainly around disabled people, but I know there are expectations, so I don't want to just say it's for disabled people, but this is an industry that is blending those two and making very important machines that are saving lives. Coming in at number 3 is a compensation and benefits manager, and we've now just kind of blown past the $100,000 mark as we are now in around the $120,000 mark. And what a compensation and benefits manager does is they'll typically work for an organization or a company, and they are in charge of kind of deciding how much compensation the employee should get, and not only the compensation but also the benefits. So they'll look at the finances of the company. They will also look at what the employees are doing, the different benefit programs that are out there. Maybe they're using some health insurance benefit company and they see a different one is better, then they'll move there. But this is very important because they are in charge of kind of setting up that payroll and deciding how much people are going to get, what their benefits should be, and there's a lot of research that needs to be done here. These are not arbitrary salaries that are just thrown out there. No, they are calculated. How much can this company afford? How much should this person be paid? What are the benefits you can offer? They look at different programs, and it is quite a bit of work, and psychology does prepare you well from the research standpoint that you have to do in order to do this job at its highest level. So if this is something that you're interested in, it is very high paying, and from what I saw, you don't need, at least it wasn't required, that you have anything higher than a bachelor's degree, although I'm sure if you did, it does put you in a more competitive position in that you may be more likely to get the job. Coming in at number 2 is an industrial organizational psychologist, and this is sometimes just referred to as an IO psychologist. And this person will be making about $125,000 on average every single year, and for my research, you did need further studies than just a bachelor's degree. But what this person will do, and it is pretty interesting, they'll work for a company or an organization, and they are in charge of just making sure that the psychology side of things is running smoothly. So maybe they're in charge of setting up a specific office space in such a way that it is for optimal psychological effect, meaning, maybe that table should go there, the table should be set up in such a way that it helps people think and formulate ideas. So these people are very important to companies because it's the little things that companies do that can kind of give them the edge over their competitors. And if their entire company is designed in such a way for maximum efficiency for their employees, then they will outdo their competition. So this is kind of an interesting way you can take what you've learned from psychology and kind of the different quirks and different things that go on psychologically and implement them into the business world, and that's what companies want. So it's kind of an interesting blend of what you've learned and throwing out that into the real world. So maybe an IO psychologist is something that you want to look into, and as you can see, it is important and it is well paid. Coming at number one, and if you're a psychology student, you probably could have guessed this, but it is a psychologist, making over $214,000 every single year. And to become a psychologist, you do need more than a bachelor's degree. Now, as far as what a psychologist does, psychology is such a big field. There are so many different types of psychologists working with different people, and in almost every field, every organization, whether it be professional, even athletes, to just professional business people, there are psychologists involved. And essentially all a psychiatrist does at, not all, but at a very high level is they are just a doctor that is specifically concerned with the psyche and the psychology of people. So with different mental issues, if there's mental health situations, then they oftentimes will talk to a psychiatrist or anything along those lines. So psychiatry and this field as a whole is something that a lot of psychology students work towards. And the cool thing about it is you can really find your own niche. So, there isn't a one size fits all of, oh, you're gonna become a psychiatrist, you're gonna do this. No, there's so many different things that you can do within it. You can really find, in my research when I was looking at this video, I found a whole bunch of different psychiatrist positions, and it was interesting reading about the psychiatrists that work with professional kind of NFL and NBA teams and everything like that. I thought that was pretty fascinating, but they are in all different landscapes of kind of the world today, and you can find your own little niche for yourself. And as you can see, they are very well paid. So you can definitely look into that and know that there's probably a pretty healthy salary at the end. But that will wrap it up. So I hope along the way, one of these 10 kind of piqued your interest and that you were interested in. And if I missed one, maybe I missed a pretty big job that is high paying, I would love it if you would let me know in the comments below. I'll be going through there, I'll be talking to you guys, and I'd like to see what your thoughts are on this. But that will wrap it up. So if you're interested in anything like this, I make a lot of videos about personal finance and kind of the job market as a whole. So if you're interested in anything like that, I would love it if you would subscribe. But that will wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. If you're a psychologist student, that's awesome. I always enjoy talking to my psychology friends and just seeing what they're up to, and I feel like they're always learning about something very, very fascinating, and it's always quite different from my economics side. I'm an economics student, and it's always very different from what I'm studying, so it's always very cool. Keep up the good work. It's an amazing field. But that will wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, my name is Calvin Rabb, and I'll see you next time. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Congratulations. So I'm going to move to the corner of your screen here. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, you are going to see my most recent video. And if you look in the lower left-hand corner, you're going to see a video that YouTube and I each think that you would like. And if you haven't yet, you can hit my face right here and subscribe. As always, my name is Calvin Rabb, and I'll see you soon.